Skeletons. These three little bone boys might cost just 1 elixir, but here's the thing, most people don't realize about them. They're basically the ultimate cheap bodyguards that can completely destroy your opponent's expensive pushes. So let's talk about what makes these walking bones so special. First off, they've been in the game since 2016, making them one of the original cards that everyone started with. When you drop them, you get 3 fast but super weak melee fighters that spawn in this perfect triangle formation. And here's where it gets interesting. Their whole job isn't really to deal damage. Their job is to be the most annoying distractions possible for all those high damage single target units that cost way more elixir than they do. Think about it like this, your opponent just spent 5 elixir on a prince, and that thing is charging straight at your tower with its lance ready to destroy everything. You drop 1 elixir skeletons right in front of it, and suddenly that prince has to completely retarget and waste all that charge damage on 3 little bone guys instead of your tower. That's a 4 elixir positive trade right there, and your tower gets to shoot the prince while it's distracted killing skeletons. But it gets even better than that. These bone boys can completely shut down some of the most expensive and scary cards in the game. We're talking about Inferno Dragon, P.E.K.K.A, Sparky, Mini P.E.K.K.A, all these massive threats that cost 4, 5, 6, even 7 elixir. Drop skeletons on any of these guys and watch them waste their time and damage on 1 elixir worth of bones while your towers and other troops clean them up. And here's a pro trick that most people don't know about. If your opponent drops a mortar in an offensive position, you can actually place skeletons in the perfect spot to activate your king tower. It's all about that precise placement, and once you get it down, you're basically getting a 1 elixir cost king tower activation against one of the most popular cards in the game. The skeletons are also amazing in cycle decks because they let you rotate through your deck super fast for just 1 elixir. You can split them behind your king tower to make your opponent think twice about attacking the opposite lane, or you can use them to accompany a miner for extra pressure and damage. They can even counter medium health troops like Musketeer, Night Witch, Miner, Bandit, and Mini P.E.K.K.A, as long as your crown tower is helping out with the damage. Now obviously these guys aren't perfect, they die instantly to any kind of splash damage, so cards like Wizard, Bowler, Executioner, Witch, and Bomber will completely destroy them without breaking a sweat. But that's actually good game design because it means there are clear counters and your opponent has to think about what cards they're running. The developers even made a balance change in October 2025 where they increased the skeleton's attack interval to 1.1 seconds, which reduced their overall damage output, but they kept their main strength as distractions, which shows that Supercell knows exactly what role these cards are supposed to play. But if you think Bone Boys are annoying, wait until you see this kamikaze maniac who literally explodes himself for your entertainment, Fire Spirit. This little flaming guy looks innocent enough with his tiny hands and glowing eyes, but he's got a dark secret that makes him way more dangerous than he appears. He's basically a suicide bomber that trades his life for massive splash damage. This guy has been around since 2016, and he looks like a small flaming coal that somehow grew hands, legs, and these bright glowing eyes that just scream trouble. But here's what makes him special. He's a kamikaze troop, which means his whole strategy is to leap at your enemies and blow himself up on impact. When he explodes, he deals area damage in a 2.3 tile splash radius, which might not sound like much until you realize that's big enough to hit multiple enemies at once. The trick with Fire Spirit is placement. You can't just drop him anywhere because he's super fragile and will die before he reaches his target if you're not careful. You need to place him at a safe distance so he can actually jump on the enemies and do his explosive thing. When you get it right though, he's absolutely deadly against swarms of small troops like Goblin, Spear Goblins, Bats, and Minions. But here's where Fire Spirit gets really interesting. He can actually survive shots from a bunch of medium damage units, which means he can tank a hit and still complete his suicide mission. We're talking about cards like Musketeer, Executioner, Baby Dragon, Witch, Minions, Archers, Princess, Ice Wizard, Miner, Fisherman, and even Bandit. This survivability is what makes him so good for chip damage and spell baiting in fast pushes. You can pair him with other troops like Hog Rider, Mini P.E.K.K.A, Ram Rider, Prince, Dark Prince, and Lumberjack to minimize collisions and maximize his explosive potential, and he combos amazingly well with spells too. Drop Fire Spirit with Zap to completely destroy wall breakers, use him with arrows against skeleton dragons, combine with Fireball for Night Witch, or even use Lightning for Inferno Dragon setups. One of the coolest tricks is combining Fire Spirit with Electro Spirit for just 2 elixir total. This combo can counter Princess, Minions, Archers, Bomber, Firecracker, or even Goblin Barrel when your Crown Tower helps out. And if your opponent drops a Skeleton Barrel, you can deploy Fire Spirit behind your tower right as it pops to completely eliminate all the skeletons that spawn. He even deals with Lava Hound really well because when the Lava Hound dies and spawns all those lava pups, Fire Spirit can damage all of them at once with his explosion radius. The developers gave Fire Spirit a huge rework in 2021 that changed everything about how he worked. They reduced his cost from 2 elixir down to just 1 elixir, and focused on making his individual impact way more significant. Then, in February 2025, they buffed his range from 2 tiles to 2.5 tiles, which gave him better offensive reach and made him way more relevant in the meta. The whole theme around Fire Spirit is this idea of fiery sacrifice and kamikaze missions, but Clash Royale describes it as giving enemies a warm hug, which is honestly pretty funny considering he's literally exploding on them. Speaking of spirits with attitude, this Icy Boy has a freeze trick that's absolutely broken and can completely change the outcome of any battle. Ice Spirit. This lively white spirit looks totally harmless with his cute features, but the freeze effect does something absolutely broken that changes everything. He can completely control when and how fights happen on the battlefield. This guy is also from 2016, and he's this round, bouncy white spirit with these bright cyan features that make him look friendly and innocent. But don't let that fool you because his ability is insane. He jumps at enemies and freezes an entire group within a splash radius for 1.2 seconds. That might not sound like a long time, but in Clash Royale, 1.2 seconds can be the difference between winning and losing a battle. Ice Spirit is absolutely crucial in cycling decks because that freeze effect can stun troops or buildings at exactly the right moment to keep your other units alive longer. He can tank for swarms like Goblins, Minion Horde, Skeleton Army, Evolved Bats, or Evolved Skeletons, giving them just enough time to reach the Princess Tower without getting destroyed by defenses. The coolest part is that he can survive hits from so many medium damage units, which means he almost always gets his freeze off before dying. We're talking about Executioner, Electro Dragon, Baby Dragon, Witch, Archer Queen, Firecracker, Minions, Princess, Ice Wizard. That's a huge list of cards that can't one-shot him. But here's where Ice Spirit gets really broken. He can reset charged abilities, which means if a Prince or Dark Prince is charging at your tower with that devastating lance attack, Ice Spirit can freeze them and completely cancel their charge. That's a massive elixir advantage right there. He can also kite Firecracker to activate your King Tower, which is huge for defense. One of the best combos is Ice Spirit with Goblin Gang. If your opponent tries to counter your Goblin Gang, you can time the Ice Spirit perfectly to freeze their counter and get a +2 elixir trade, but always check if your opponent has the log in their deck because they can shut down your push in the blink of an eye. He also works amazing with Hog Rider because he can freeze defensive buildings or clear small troops when combined with Zap. Against Balloon, Ice Spirit is a lifesaver because that freeze with support cards can stop the Balloon from getting on your tower, and he can combine with the log to counter guards for an even elixir trade. Or he can basically replace Zap in your deck as a cheaper alternative that gives you a longer freeze duration instead of instant damage. The developers added an evolution for Ice Spirit in 2023, which made him even more powerful, but then they had to nerf the evolved version in July 2025 by reducing the freeze duration to 1.1 seconds because it was getting too strong. Ice Spirit represents this whole theme of icy control and disruption that ties into Clash Royale's frozen arenas like Frozen Peak. He's become a staple card for control-oriented playstyles that focus on perfect timing and elixir efficiency in competitive matches. Before we get to the next 1 elixir card, smash that subscribe button. But if controlling enemies is good, healing your own troops back to full health when they should be dead is even better. Heal Spirit. This mischievous yellow guy might look like the weirdest spirit in the game, but it has a healing power that can completely flip losing battles and keep your pushes alive when they should be dead. Unlike the other spirits, Heal Spirit is newer to the game, coming out in 20D20. He's this yellow spirit that looks totally different from his round spirit brothers, and he's got this mischievous personality that shows in how he works. When he leaps at enemies, he deals minor area damage, but that's not the real reason you use him. The magic happens after he explodes. He leaves behind this healing field that pulses 4 times, with each pulse happening every 0.25 seconds. During those pulses, any friendly troops in that area get their hit points restored, which can completely change the outcome of battles. This makes him perfect for keeping swarms and tanks alive against spells that would normally destroy them. Think about cards like Royal Hogs, Barbarians, Elixir Golem, or Golem. All of these troops benefit massively from healing, especially when your opponent tries to finish them off with Fireball, Poison, Arrows, or Royal Delivery. Just like his Spirit brothers, Heal Spirit can survive shots from medium damage units, which means he usually gets his healing field down before dying. He can tank hits from Princess or Ice Wizard. One of the coolest defensive tricks is using Heal Spirit to pull enemies closer to your towers while also setting up healing for your defensive troops. He synergizes really well with Tornado because you can group enemies together and then heal multiple friendly units at the same time. Against Skeleton Barrel, he can jump on the spawned skeletons and completely counter them while also leaving healing for other troops. He can even kite Royal Ghost, which is super useful for defense, and he combines with spells really well. Use him with Fireball to finish off damaged musketeers, or combine with Zap to eliminate weakened goblins while healing your own troops. The key to using Heal Spirit is placement. You want to put him behind your troops so that when he creates his healing field, it overlaps with where your push is going to be. Don't use him in siege decks with Expo or Mortar because buildings can't benefit from healing, which makes him pretty useless in those matchups. But he's amazing for luring other spirits into your territory for neutral trades, and he can distract split archers for a +2 elixir value, which is always nice. The developers made some fine-tuning changes in March 2025 where they slightly reduced his hit points by 0.43%, but boosted his healing by 0.25%. These small adjustments show that they're trying to perfect his role in sustained pushes and counterplay against spell-heavy metas. Heal Spirit represents this theme of restorative mischief and revival that brought back healing mechanics from the old heal spell that used to be in the Gamel. He's had a huge impact on Clash Royale by making healing viable again in a game that's mostly about dealing damage, and now for the most versatile 1 elixir card in the entire game that can stun up to 8 enemies at the same time with pure electricity. Electro Spirit. This violet spirit with the blue spiky mustache might look funny, but he has a chain reaction ability that literally breaks the game by stunning more enemies than any other card for just 1 elixir. This guy came out in 2020 alongside Heal Spirit, and he's this violet entity with the most distinctive feature in Clash Royale, that blue spiky mustache that makes him instantly recognizable. But that mustache isn't just for show, because this spirit has the most versatile ability of any 1 elixir card in the game. When Electro Spirit jumps on enemies, he doesn't just hit 1 target. He creates chain lightning that can stun up to 8 different targets within 4 tiles of each other. Each target gets stunned for 0.5 seconds, and while he deals low damage per hit, the disruption he causes is absolutely insane. This works on both air and ground units, which means he can help shut down mixed pushes. Here's where it gets completely broken. Against cards like Inferno Dragon, Inferno Tower, or Prince, Electro Spirit can be used to reset charging attacks. That's incredible value for just 1 elixir. And when a Elixir Golem dies and spawns their death spawns, Electro Spirit can chain to all of them for massive value. Just like the other spirits, he can survive hits from medium damage units Ice Wizard. This survivability means he almost always gets his chain lightning off. You can use him to kite slow units like Mega Minion or Hunter across the arena, and he works amazing with win conditions like Hog Rider because he can stun defensive buildings while also clearing small troops when combined with Zap. But it's important to be careful when using Electro Spirit because he can accidentally activate the enemy King Tower when he jumps around, and activating that tower early is basically gifting your opponent way more defensive firepower than they deserve. The combos with Electro Spirit are endless. Pair him with Fire Spirit for 2 elixir counters against Princess or Goblin Barrel. Use him with Skeletons to completely stop Goblin Barrel for a positive elixir trade. Combine with the Log to counter guards perfectly. One of the most satisfying tricks is using him against Skeleton Army. He can clear almost the entire swarm in 1 jump. He can stun Balloon defensively to prevent tower damage, and he basically replaces Zap in cycle decks as a cheaper, stunning option, though with less area effect. The Chain Lightning mechanic is what makes him special because it can hit targets that aren't even the main target. If your opponent has troops spread out in a line, Electro Spirit can jump on the front one and chain all the way back to hit units that are 4 tiles away from where he landed. Here's something funny about the lore. there's actually a mustache-themed rivalry between Electro Spirit and Knight in the Clash Royale universe, which adds this whimsical electricity theme to the Spirit series. It's these little details that make the game's characters more memorable. The most impressive thing about Electro Spirit is that he hasn't needed a single balance change since his release in 2020. That means the developers got his power level exactly right from the start, which almost never happens in Clash Royale. He's solidified his impact as the ultimate low-cost crowd control card that enables electricity synergies and creates strategic chain reactions in competitive play.